Okay, I am Ida Collins.
Okay, nice. Nice to meet you, Miss Ida Collins. And Miss Ida Collins, how old are you?
I was born in December of 1946, to do the math.
Okay. So you were born in December of 1946. On where were you born, Miss Ida?
I was born in Belize City.
In Belize City. Okay. Not in the district, in the city.
The city.
Okay, in the city.
Uh-huh.
Nice. Um, what is your mother's name and your father's name?
My mother and father, Margaret Collins and Harold Collins.
Miss Margaret Collins and Mr. Harold Collins.
Hurricane Hattie stands out in my mind as the worst one I've experienced in my life. I've experienced many, but that was the biggest. And why I say it was the biggest was because it was the most devastating in terms of the city. Uh, the, the hurricane actually did not destroy my house, really, but it did do a lot of damage to it. We had roof. We lost a part of the roof, and the outer part, the verandas were destroyed. The major part of the house was left standing. And I remember the water coming up just below the floor of the first flat.
So the house was a two-storage
Yes,
house?
it was
a two-storage house. So it completely covered the first flat?
No, it did not.
Oh, it did not?
The house was high.
Oh,
It's a high house.
Okay.
I remember my sister used to be able to walk her bicycle comfortably underneath the house. So that would tell you more or less it was high.
Okay. Okay, and what time of the day did the hurricane came?
The major part of the hurricane, if I remember rightly, was at night.
Oh, it was in the night time it hit.
Okay. If I remember rightly. But a hurricane comes with a lot of rain and darkness and that kind of thing. But I think a lot of it was at night.
Okay. And what preparation did your parents made at that time?
Well, we had to make sure that there was food in the house. We had to make sure that the house, the windows and doors were properly barred so that the wind would not blow things open. And they used to say keep the wind out. Otherwise it's going to make the house very vulnerable.
What was the neighborhood look like? What did the neighborhood look like after the storm?
After the storm, everywhere had a thick layer of ugly mud. Several houses were either badly damaged or the smaller houses were actually totally demolished. Our house, as I said, we lost part of the roof and we lost things like the steps and so on needed serious repair. And everything was wet. The total surroundings, everything was gray with a lot of mud, inches of mud, as far as I remember. And we didn't go out, that is the children in our family did not go out for days after because it was unsafe. There was a lot of debris in the street. A lot of the houses in the city were demolished. So there was a lot of, what should we say? There was a lot of, the streets were not easily passable. And I think we had military personnel trying to do tidy up, trying to clean up the place. It was an awful mess, really. And I think, if I remember rightly, the high water remained for quite some time. So it was the most adventurous of the family members that went out to check on other family members and friends, etc. But they made sure that the children stayed home and out of harm's way.
And what part of the city were you living at that time?
I lived with a map of the city, you would, I didn't tell you, King Street intersected Albert Street. I also remember that we lost a lot of stuff in the house, like books and things like that, because things got wet. And it was a big job to dry out the things that were important to us. For instance, I remember very clearly my school book. My school book got all wet, and that was a big concern for us. Because our O-level exam, my class, was the following year. So in a few months' time, we had our O-level foreign exam coming up. And I remember clearly wondering what would happen at school. You know, first of all, I wondered, is my school still there? You know, what are my other friends, what are they going through? Are they all alive? Because we realized that a lot of people had been killed, you know, had drowned or whatever. It was pretty devastating. And I should mention this. My father used to rear chickens at the back of our yard. And when the water came up, it drowned all of the chickens. And it was horrible. It was as if that destructive water flow came in, did its damage, stayed around for a while, made life miserable, wet people's belongings, carried some people away. You know, it was horrible. But I remember feeling very, very grateful that we were not as badly hit as many other people. So at that point, as a family, we were able to count our blessings and think about other people as well, other family members and friends, etc. We were also anxious, as I said, to go down and see what was happening at school. A few days later, we actually went to school when our parents allowed us. We went to school to see what the condition was and in what way we could help.
And was the school still there?
The school that I attended was Wesley College, which was down in Biafra, and that was near the sea.
Okay.
So they lost a lot of the books, etc. You know? So when we went down, the building was damaged, but they had one or two structures were wooden structures.
Okay.
But we had some cement structures too, so it was a balance.
Yes, I see.
After things cleared up, after a few months, things cleared up and we were able to get back to school to start preparing again for our upcoming exam, you know. And I remember seeing friends and myself throwing appearances to the wind because you wore what you could access, right? What you could find to fit you is what you wore. And there are lots of stories going around about people who saw their teachers maybe with their pants rolled up, you know, trying to walk through the water and so on. What happened to so-and-so's house? What happened to teacher so-and-so's car? It was, you know, lots of stories went all around about how other people fared. I want to make one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is just a very personal comment. I remember my father not being at home during the preparations before the hurricane. He had a boat. He was a boatman. He used to fly the Belize Cayo run. Before the road was built, you know, that's what he used to do. He used to ferry goods and people back and forth. And he was looking after his business and his boat and his belongings, and then he hustled home. I remember us taking care of the battening down of the windows and doors and so on, and I remember being very anxious about him. And as soon as he got home and started taking charge of everything, I remember that sense of relief and the sense that everything was now okay because he was there.
And at the time, it was you and your mom or and your brother or sister?
Me, my mother, I'm trying to remember if my sister, yes, my sister, and a few other relatives came. Because, as I sort of suggested, our house was more secure. Also, even though the house was more secure, during the storm, I remember us having to go to certain doors depending on how the wind was blowing, going to certain doors and actually manning those doors so that the wind would not blow in, you know? It was quite an experience. And in some cases what we had to do was to put heavy bits of furniture there to help us to keep the door closed. It was awkward. And we remember also hearing the wind and the rain and everything on the outside, and then your mind just ran wild. What's going on, you know?
Thanks very much, Ms. Ida, for your experience and your insight on that storm. It's greatly appreciated, and it will be greatly shared within our generation to come.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.